Terry Fator.
Steve.
How you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm doing fantastic.
Woo.
Just having a ball. I miss live performing though.
Oh, no
But
kidding.
I've been keeping myself busy. I was I didn't feel well right at the beginning of all that, and I think I was exhausted. There was so much going on. I was just exhausted, and I took maybe a month or 6 weeks off, and I didn't do anything.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden I started getting that bug again, and I started writing and performing and recording, and so I'm having a ball. I'm ready to get back on stage though.
Fantastic.
I'll tell you.
Good. Boy, we miss you. We miss seeing you on stage for sure. And you are, for those who might not know, you were the winner of the second season of America's Got Talent, and you became one of the highest paid entertainers in Las Vegas history. An incredible achievement. And it didn't just start from there. You were doing fairs and stuff right before that.
Oh, I was, yeah. Kind of a funny story because I had some people after I became a Vegas headliner and everything, and I had some people that were like, well, I read this, and one of the things there's like, well, Jeff Dunham, he paid his dues. Terry Fator took the shortcut, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I spent 20 years doing 3 to 5 shows almost every day,
No.
even on Sundays. And I mean, we're not talking. I would have maybe 1 month off a year, and that wasn't a full month at a time. That was maybe 3 days here, 4 days here, and if you added it all up, it was about 30 to 31 days working every single day. And I'm like, just you didn't see me on TV or didn't mean I wasn't paying my dues.
No kidding.
And
Yeah.
There's a reason why when I went on America's Got Talent that I was able to win the thing. It's because I went in so prepared. I had so much material. I had 3 to 4 hours worth of material. Wow. So it wasn't a matter of, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? No. It was, what am I not going to do? I had so much great material that I had, I had amassed and I had been using and written over the last, 20 years. So it's just funny. But yes, I did not just pop out of nowhere. No. I was working. I was doing fairs, festivals, corporate parties, pretty much anything I could possibly do up until America's Got Talent.
Well, and you got to interface with some of the greats. Of course, Simon Cowell there. Simon really loves you, and what has he said about you?
He said, I think Terry Fator is the most talented person I've ever come across.
Okay, hold on to that thought. Terry. I happen to have made Simon. I made Simon for Darcy Lynn, let's do that again. Let me put him right here. Okay, go for it.
Okay. I think Darcy Lynn is much more talented than Terry Fator. No, wait a second.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That is a great Simon. That's really great.
That's great.
What did he say about it? Did he love it?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I was at one of the tapings, I don't know, a year ago or so, with Peter Norgard from Denmark, and was in the audience for him and was clapping and everything. And we saw Simon afterwards, and I said, hey, Simon. He was just walking in the alley, escorted to his car, being escorted to his car. And I said, hey, Simon, I'm Steve Axtell. I made that puppet of you that Darcy Lynn uses. And he goes, no, you didn't. And so I pulled out my phone. He goes, let me see. And he comes over and he sees the pictures of me sculpting this and holding it. He couldn't believe it. And he put his arm around me and took a selfie with me. And we had a blast. Yeah, great. Good guy. And we've made a lot of puppets for you over the years, Axtell Expressions in my company. And it started with a whole bunch of, I think Julius, the very first Julius was our jazz man.
The story real quick, I'll try to do this as short as possible. I was opening at the Hilton. Now, I had just won America's Got Talent, I think August 19th. And then I believe it was October the 17th or something so we only had a couple of months. And I had created this Julius character, and I'd hired this guy. I don't know. And it wasn't me. It was my first manager, who is no longer my manager. And he had hired some guy out of the blue, and we had paid him a ton of money to make this. And the puppet came maybe 2 days or 3 days before, and it looked horrible. It looked like a monster. It was just like, I can't do this. And I had this, and I had already written the act, and I had this. So I called you in a panic, and I'm like, Steve, do you have a black? I got this character. Now, my original idea was that the character was going to look like Nat King Cole. And I wish I still had that old puppet, just because I was so angry. I probably threw it away, or I sent it back to him. I wish I had such a horrible puppet. And I could come to find out that this guy had never made a puppet before in his life, and he was going to try it. it was, again, this was all done by my manager. Didn't know what the heck he was doing. So I called you in a panic, and you sent me the jazz man, and I called him Julius. And it's funny because we were talking about voices today, right? Coming up with voices. Well, obviously, the voice that I had, because I had been practicing this voice, and the voice was really kind of smooth like this, like he was, and that would not work with the jazz man, right? I mean, the jazz would come. So once he had he had the eyes, it was really kind of, he looks a lot like Louis Armstrong. And so it's like, no, I can't do this, Terry, because that's what, almost like Rochester, from Jack Benny.
I remember you performed him on Oprah with Simon.
I did, yes.
When you brought him out, Oprah went.
Yes, she was like, oh my God.
And then when you performed with it, she was just in love. She just couldn't believe how cool it was. It was so neat.
That was wham, 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 wham. I've been really trying, baby. So as soon as I started doing that, and the cool thing was Simon looks over at Oprah like, see, I told you.
Oh, yeah, that was incredible. Well, one of the puppets that we made for you that you've been using up to this last year was Donald Trump, and we happen to have a duplicate of your Donald Trump right here. Check this out.
Oh my goodness! You're not going to auction that, right? That's not going to be an auction.
No, that's not. No, certainly not. This is an exclusive custom for you.
That's funny. That's great. Yeah. So, but there it is again, though. Talk about voices. The thing about that was it was more of I really wanted to I just felt like literally everybody was talking about Donald Trump. And we did that right after he announced he was going to win, before he was president. So it didn't matter to me whether he won or lost comedically. I had stuff written. In fact, I was convinced he wasn't going to win. I had a whole routine written for him about not winning and about how, and we had to completely in one day rewrite the entire thing, because we just like the rest of America was shocked when he actually won. But as far as that, when you're doing a Donald Trump and you're doing an impression, he talks like this and he's got this, but you see my lips are pursed. So it's, I'm going to be the greatest president that ever, so when you can't do that without moving your lips. So when I do it, it just came out like this, because I can't, I can't create that. So with that, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to let the character be the character. Yeah. And of course, we have the hair flip, but we got the puppet, the fright wig. He did the fright wig with him and his hair. And that, by the way, to Steve, brings a house down every single time. When I do that, when that hair flips up, the crowd goes crazy.
So funny. All right, very good. So we're here to talk about voices. And since Simon said you are the voice of entertainment, I mean, you are the man. Give us some tips. Give anybody that can't do what you do some tips about how they can make their voices better.
What I do, and my voice doctor, Wayne Kirkham out of Dallas, Texas, he is the voice doctor to the stars. The man, he's Mick Jagger's. He did Luciano Pavarotti. He does Celine Dion. He did Frank Sinatra, Elvis. He has actually told me, and then he did an interview with Rolling Stone magazine, and they asked him what is the most unusual voice you've ever worked on, and he said, hands down, Terry Fator. He said, what Terry, and he has said this on camera, that what Terry Fator does is physically impossible, and I can't understand it. He can't understand it, and I was trying to explain it to my wife, and I said, like, for example, Carry On My Wayward Son. Obviously, I can sing that song with my lips moving. Another one is Shower the People, where I was doing Arnold McCuller at the end. It's like when I'm doing those things, it's not easy for me to do when my lips are moving, but it's way, way easier when I'm moving my lips. So to be quite frank and honest with you, I thought to myself, when I was getting ready to do those songs, I thought, I don't even know if I can. So what I would do is, it's like, carry on my wayward son. And that's different than when I go, carry on my wayward son, when my lips are not moving. So I have the ability, and again, I was trying to explain this to my wife. She didn't even understand what I'm talking about. You, ventriloquist, I'm kind of curious about this. I can actually find another place in my vocal cords to have that come from. So I can actually manipulate my vocal cords and move the vocal cords to where I can make it come from a different place in my throat. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah,
as a ventriloquist?
Not clearly, and I've not heard it explained that way before, but I think a lot of us trip onto it just in the physiology of trying to do ventriloquism, we find a place,
Yeah. So
but nothing like you.
right. So for me, I can. I can actually. When I'm doing it with my mouth moving, it comes from a different place in my throat. And when I'm not moving my lips, I can find it. Now, sometimes it can take me several days or weeks. And the funny thing is, there are many times when I'm on stage, it's different than when I was rehearsing, because you're all amped up. You've got everything. You're all excited. So it's different on stage. So it might take me 2 to 3 weeks of actually performing on stage with an audience before I find that spot, that place. So for the first 2 to 3 weeks, and most people won't notice it, but I do, that it's not as good as it does finally once I learn that placement. And then once I learn that placement, when I've got an audience, and I'm all amped up and got the energy and everything, then I can settle in, and then suddenly something that I was struggling with for the 2 to 3 weeks, I finally find.
Sure.
But it's very. I've got a very strange set of vocal cords.
That aside, your physiology is different than ours, and it's going to be impossible for anybody to try to do what you're doing. But for general thoughts, you have so many different characters, and now you do over 100 impressions, at least. How can a person make a character voice good as opposed to average?
Now that is something that is not something that only I can do. That's something a lot of people can do. Now what you have to do is but see, for me, I started out, I was listening to Edgar Bergen's not instant ventriloquism with Jimmy Nelson's, right? And Edgar Bergen's I don't remember what the name of it was, but it was the one where he was teaching, what's it called? Do you remember? Where he was teaching you how to be a ventriloquist. And one of the things that struck me was that when he was doing the distant voice, he actually had 2 people, and he would have 2 people have a conversation. One had a high voice and one had a deep voice. So when he was talking to himself using the distant voice, and as a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid, I'm listening to him. That's how I practice. I practice doing, so when I do my distant voice on stage, I can have any one of my puppets call from off stage doing a distant voice, because when I learned the distant voice when I was young, I actually learned to do different voices. So I would practice having 3 or 4 or 5 conversations with 3 or 4 or 5 different voices with the distant voice, not just with my other voice.
Wow.
So when you're doing it, you don't want to have just, it doesn't really matter. It's not like, when we see Lucas, every one of his voice is exactly the same, but he's so freaking good at it that it doesn't really matter. My gosh, the greatest disinfectants on the planet. But for me, this is just me. And if somebody has the ability to do this, then they definitely should try to at least make different be able to do different voices. Now, when it comes to creating a voice, I look at the character. I'm going to give you an example. Okay, so my first Winston the Impersonating Turtle was, look me up on America's Got Talent. And it was What a Wonderful World on America's Got Talent. And that was my first Winston that I bought at a toy store. And he had his nose was kind of a little bit stuffed up. Flat. And he had this little flat nose. And it, to me, when I looked at him, he obviously looked like he had this.
He wanted to have a little bit of a stuffed up nose.
Because it looked like he didn't have much of a nose. So then when I had them make Winston,
hi
Winston.
Steve.
You too,
Good
buddy?
to see you. Yeah. Oh, nice to see you. I remember when you named the body.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Then I shed it.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, you notice with this one though, he has a formed nose. So I was able to take out that. And this is a good example because with 2 different puppets, one had a flat nose and didn't look like he had much of a nose. So I took that.
And I gave it more of a nose, a talk like this where he didn't have a nose. And then I grew, it was a growth. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah, that's incredible.
So, and then, but let's look at this. Okay, so then Dougie Scott Walker comes along, okay? And then now just look at him. I actually, when I told the people at Puppet Heap to make him, I wanted them to make I told him he's a couch potato and I want his face to look the shape of a potato. So, I mean, look at that. That could be a potato. And then, of course, the little goatee, the whiskers, and he's got the kind of the sleepy little eyes, and it's like, hey, what's going on, dude? Woo, yeah, that's great. Oh, he's got his. I had him holding up that little help me sign.
Yeah, in that other video.
Oh, dude, yeah, all right, woo! You know, so you see but it really depends on the different characters that you have. You have to, every character has to look at the face and notice things about the face, notice things about how their mouth is, and that's how you come up with it. But doing exercises and learning to and then going, I need to go high, and maybe you even want to do a little bit of this. So it depends on, but it really depends get the face looks like, and that's really my best advice to
that's right.
characters.
And to keep that voice of the character different than your own, so that you've got good differentiation. Yeah.
That's very important. But you notice if somebody is dumb, like you've got a Mortimer Snurd, or you've got what's the puppet? Bubba J, is it?
Bubba J.
Bubba J?
Yeah.
I can't remember if that's his name, but Bubba. And, you know, it's like they talk like this, you know. And I know Ron Lucas has a turtle. His is a turtle, but it's the sock, and he puts a little thing. He talks like this because he's very slow. So, you know, you can. It depends again if it's more of one of those dumb characters. You know, you might want to do this, or you know, if it's a little kid who's you know, he might be a little imp and he might be talking like this and he might be really fast and oh man, I hate my teachers and I hate my school and blah blah blah, you know. So it really depends on what the puppet looks like, first of all. I mean, you don't get a character. You don't want a character that looks like Mortimer Snurd. You know, you got the buck teeth and he's talking like this. That wouldn't make much sense. You know, so you just have to. And a lot of times though, my characters have. You might even notice a change in the voices. You might even notice a change in the voices throughout my DVDs. Like my first DVD, Maynard stuttered, and I don't even remember making a conscious choice to stop making him stutter. It wasn't that I decided. It kind of evolved as I began to do the character. I began to notice. I don't think he lisped, and I think I just kind of evolved into. I thought it was funnier that he was a lisper instead of a stutterer. You know.
Love that character.
I've got Maynard over here.
I love Maynard.
Yeah. But as far as creating character.
Oh my goodness, is that Steve
Maynard,
Axtell?
your hair has exploded. Dude, you...
Yeah, that's just, it's COVID-19. My hair has COVID-19.
You're looking good, buddy.
I'm gonna make a new conditioner called COVID-19. It'll make your hair explode.
I could use more hair.
So see, that was where he was, you know, if you watch that, he's like, Steve, that's you know, and it wasn't like a thing where I said, you know, I don't like this. It just sort of evolved.
Who evolved? Did I evolve?
No, you did not. Okay, anyway.
He does. Oh, Terry, you're an amazing genius, and it's been wonderful talking to you about voices here at Axtell's Attic. I really appreciate your time, and I want to have another interview with you soon, and we can expand more on your thoughts on ventriloquism as a whole and entertainment as a whole. I think you've got a lot to say. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much
Love you,
for coming.
Steve.
Appreciate it.